Couple of very quick informal, I don't have any presentations or anything like that, but a couple of announcements to sort of kick us off. For anyone who's not aware, Microsoft Ignite is an online, they do it every 6 months or whatever it is, but it kicks off Thursday morning at 4 a.m. our time. And we also have running at the same time the PASS Community Data Summit. Both of these are, so Ignite's run by Microsoft. PASS Summit is supported heavily by Microsoft. They both have free live streaming options, some of which are at 4 a.m., but then they kind of flow through until about midday. There's going to be a lot of data content and most likely some announcements. So if you've got the opportunity on Thursday or Friday, jump in. I can share the links through the meetup and all that sort of stuff at the end if you want. Like I said, they both have free online ways to join. The online is limited, but it's still, better than nothing. But there's lots of talk of AI. There's lots of talk of Copilot and what that's going to look like in the data world. So there's going to be a fair bit of chatter coming out of those. So if you're at all interested, jump on the socials or jump on the live streams, all that sorts of stuff. Like I said, I'll send out the links. And then the other thing I did want to discuss with people, but we can sort of discuss a little bit more. So we do have a December meeting planned for the second Tuesday in December. Obviously, that is getting a little bit close to Christmas. So we were going to see if we could do something a little bit more social, a little bit more fun. Whether we decide to go lawn bowls somewhere or whether we have a session that's a little bit different to what we'd normally have. We're still sort of not sure, but any suggestions, please come and chat with me. And like I said, I'll try and talk about it again towards the end of the meeting as well. But on that note, we might kick off on the main content for today. So this is Max. Max, we've just worked out, is probably one of the longest standing members of the Data Platform Melbourne user group, community group. He just told me that they were meeting at places that I wasn't even aware of. So he has been around in this community group for a very long time, and he has kindly offered to pass on some of his experience and knowledge and expertise to us today. So I'll leave it with him to kick it off. Obviously, we're very interactive. Questions whenever you want. Martin and I'll monitor the chat from Teams. We are recording. Hopefully it'll work. I know last time we recorded and no one could hear what I was saying, which was a bit weird. But hopefully it'll work and we will post the recording for anyone that misses it or anyone wants to go through it again. But yeah, I'll kick it over to you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kelly. Gee whiz. You're the only representative from the
old days. Back before Microsoft got renovated and we used to be in this room, but this room was 4 times bigger.
Yeah.
So this was like the back corner. The room went that way. Anyway.
All right. So my topic for today, I'd like to speak about this one, why we need data modeling in data science. And as you guys know, data science is a big word and everyone's talking about it. It's doing some of it, but talking a heck of a lot more about it. So I would just want to explore this, all right? It's just my views, and I'd like to share it, and I'm sure, some of you guys are maybe working in a similar spaces, wherever you're doing similar kind of things. So I want the session to be interactive. Please, if you don't understand something, just raise your hand and I'll try and answer it, right, as we go on. But basically, I want to go for about 45 minutes, and I just want to leave some Q&A time at the end, all right? So just very briefly, I'm a data solution architect with this company, Mindtree. Anyone hear about Mindtree? No? Oh, yeah. So it's a thing, and this is my LinkedIn thing. If you want, I can share that later. All right. So let me just get, okay. All right. So let's get a little background in this. Okay, so all right, so basically, as we know, right? Um, Lots of organizations and places are trying to get what's data science all about. And I think data science is about getting valuable insights into the data that you captured. But right now, the data has exploded, is no longer, the other RDBMSs like Oracle, SQL Server, Teradata, DB2, whatever, right? Those were the ones we lived with for until maybe what 5 to 7 years ago. Those were the main ones in any organization you work. If you work for a bank like ANZ Bank or BHP or whatever, or a government organization, that's what they have, and they still do. I mean, a lot of their data, their organized data, is still in there. Okay, in those structured databases. Um, just um, a guesstimate, I would say 80 to 90% is still there. However, they're structured data, but they're also now getting unstructured data, which we are easily able to capture now, whether it's Twitter feeds or Facebook or even document store repositories from MongoDB. Hi, welcome. Yeah, come on in. Okay, and so what I'm, yeah, yeah, help yourself, guys. I mean,
I'll get some.
what I hate is cold pizza. If the pizza is warm, go for it. Yeah, go for the go for the pizza. Um, and if you look at IoT, and now people are getting into IoT in a big way, from cars having IoT devices, cars, fridges, microwaves inside the house. The data that they're sending is not human generated, right? It's generated by a device, right? So, so because of that, um, there's no sentiment or emotion in the data from IoT. It's still, and so that's why I've classified it in structured data. Okay, so it is, it could be logs, IoT logs, or whatever. So that's why it's in there. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So with this data, and like I said, till about, I would say, 5 to 7 years ago, because I've been in the industry for a while, we had data warehouses, data marts, and data vaults. Okay. So what's a data warehouse? A data warehouse was first started by Inmon, Bill Inmon. Anyone hear about him? Okay, okay. So the Inmon architecture, and it's predominantly relational tables. So that means there are tables, whether they're in SQL Server or Oracle or Teradata or DB2 or whichever platform, and tables are linked with relationships using foreign keys. So, for example, if I've got a customer account with a bank, and I'm also a customer with the bank. So I'll have a customer table. I'll be there in the bank's customer table as a customer. And I will be linked to, let's say I have 4 accounts in the bank, like a savings account, a checking account, term deposit, whatever, loan account. So the accounts are going to be linked to me as a customer, as the bank knows it, through, and in a data warehouse it would be through foreign keys, some kind of foreign keys. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's a data warehouse. I just want to I forgot my watch. So I need a,
You're only 10 minutes in.
yeah, okay. All right. And let me, Okay, so that is a data warehouse, and that usually it is the architecture design is third normal form. Anyone heard of third normal form? Not heard. Okay. Uh, don't want to don't want to digress too much, but it's just a way of modeling the tables, designing the tables so that there's no duplication of the unique key. Every table is a unique key. There's no duplication. Okay, there's no repeating groups and there's no duplication. The attributes belong to the and only the key. I mean, if I have to explain third normal form, unfortunately, I don't think I'll have time to go through it. But basically, it's the way we set up the table. So suppose it's the customer table for the bank. So there will be a unique key for each customer. So if all of us are customers, we all get a unique key. They'll keep the attributes dependent on the key, like the full name, like there's John there, there's Max me, and so on. Maybe they'll have other stuff like the tax file number, address, and all the other kind of attributes. That all will be in the same table. Yeah. Okay. All right. And they will depend on that unique key. Okay. So in a nutshell, that's the third normal form. And I just explained how there can be foreign keys to the customer accounts. Like if I have a term deposit, I have a savings account, I have a home loan account, there will be foreign keys which relate my unique customer key into that account. Okay. All right. So that's good. And we can pull in all the data from not just customer accounting, but we can pull in data from, say, CRM, all the contacts we have with the customer, whether it's by email, by phone contact, by, text contact or face-to-face contact, whatever. We can capture all that and bring that in and again relate it to the customer table. Okay. So the warehouse keeps expanding as we go on. Okay. All right. Now, what about the dimensional data mart? Well, a dimensional mart, here's this guy, Ralph Kimball. What he came across is that, hey, it's going to take too long to bring in all this data into the warehouse and set it up and relate it. We need quick reporting. A bank wants to know, okay, how many loans we signed up last quarter? Okay, and how many of our accounts are delinquent last month? We need quick reporting. We can't wait till the warehouse is filled with all the data and start to do it. Okay, so he designed the star schema and with fact and dimensions. I've got another slide. I'll talk about it later, but that's basically for fast reporting and visualizations. Okay. All right, and off late, I would say, when was it? About 7, 8 years ago, I would say, I don't have the exact date. Dan Lundstedt came up with a data vault. All right. Now, in a data vault, what happens is we isolate the unique customer key, like a customer has a unique key. We isolate that in a hub. We call it the hub customer, and it's got that unique customer ID. Say my customer ID is 303. So you'll have that hub. But my attributes of the customer, like my name, my date of birth, my tax file number, my address, that goes into what they call a satellite. Okay. And that's called ensemble modeling. So the attributes are there in the satellite and they're linked to the hub through that key. Okay. And when I relate my customer hub to my hub accounts, like my home account or my savings account, I do this through links. Okay. All right. So that's I guess it's another course on data vault. But if you are interested, see me about it. All right. So the data attributes are isolated in the what we call the core business concept. So like the core business concept is like A customer is a core business concept. An account is a core business concept. A location, like the bank's location, is also a core business concept. Okay. An organization. So these are the core business concepts, and they're broken into hub satellites linked. And the real value of of bolts are that. So I've got myself as a customer, and say they have another data source where we are getting how much income did this guy make, this Max make last year, last 3 years? Has he had what's his credit score? Okay. So that's coming from another source, right? And so, but it's not the same source as where my date of birth and address and all the details are coming from. What we can do is put that as another satellite. It's just another satellite linked to the same hub. You got it? So that's the advantage of a vault design. Okay. All right. Again, this it's a separate thing altogether, and
It's a session.
yeah, a session altogether, right? All right. So now we've got another thing. What is a data lakehouse? Okay. This is fairly new. I think this started with Delta Lake and Databricks. They started it fairly recent. I don't have an exact date, but it's fairly recent. So this is a hybrid warehousing paradigm. All right. So what happens in a lake house is a cross between a warehouse and a data lake. So what's a data lake? So in a data lake, we are just ingesting data from all the various sources that are important to us, like social media. Like right now, like if somebody's on Instagram and saying, okay, with this bank really stinks, you know. I had a bad experience. I went to this branch location and I stood there for 2 hours, whatever. It puts it on Twitter, puts it on Instagram, all right? Puts some video in there. So all this data is coming in. And so this all comes into the lake, data lake. And our problem is how do we now link the structured data, which has been sitting there for 40 years, 30, 40 years, with this new kind of data, okay? All right, so, okay, so we've got this staging, the source data and captured, and it is captured as is. That is, we are not editing the Twitter comments or the Instagram feed. We are not going to change it around or anything. We just want to bring it the way it is, okay? So as is. And then we have this process, extract, load, transfer. Everybody heard of that? Anyone? 3 or 4 people. Okay. So what this is doing in extract is, all right. So the data that's relevant to the business, we want to extract. There could be a lot of other data, that we've captured, or, even for the client, even structured data, maybe the last 10 years of addresses we've got. We're not really interested in that. We're probably only interested in the latest address, okay? Sometimes not even the full address, we just want the postcode, okay? So we want to extract just the data of relevant to us, right? And then we want to load it into the lakehouse and then transform it into business metrics formats. I'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. So this is the architecture. And you can see from the left, right? So on the left is like, how do we bring all the streaming data in? How do we bring all this data? We use Kafka, Kinesis, Dell Lake, Spark. So all these are connectors where we can bring the data in. Okay. And it goes into this is their scheme, what they are saying. The Delta Lake people are saying this is what data scientists should be working with. So let's dive in. Let's explain that a little bit, okay? So in the bronze layer, we just bring the raw data in as it is. Okay, we don't change it, we don't alter it, we don't do anything. We just bring the data in. So that includes structured and unstructured data. Okay. And then what this saying is that in the silver layer, we start to filter it. We deduplicate the duplicate entries, we throw the duplicates out, we can clean it, we can, remove the typing errors, all that kind of stuff. We can massage it, we can edit it so to put it into the silver layer. Okay. And then the gold layer is for what the business want to see. Okay, so the business want to see from my accounts how many of my customers were delinquent last month. What percentage of my customers couldn't pay their bills and accounts in time? So that's the business requirement. So that happens in the business level. Okay, making sense? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. So the bronze layer is raw source data, no edits. Silver layer is curated, deduplicated, validated, and cross-checked. Okay. So um, cross-checked with the customers we have or the accounts we have. And in the silver layer is where some of the data modeling happens, which I'll come to in a minute. Okay.
I was going to say, we've just had a question about who would consume the data in the silver layer. But if you're going to get to that.
Yeah. Can I just answer that? Can I just I'll
sure.
To that.
Yeah.
Is that from online?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. So in the gold layer is, like I said, is where we aggregate and transform it. We say, okay, how many customers had how many loan accounts? What was my exposure for the last quarter, etc. So focus on business consumption. Okay. All right. So here's a Twitter post. So this is from Jimmy Carter. He's a nice guy. Unfortunately, reaching end of life. He's a nice guy, but so he would probably not have too many bad things to say about others. But if you look at the other one, this is Trump. Okay, so this is yeah. There would be a lot of complaints or bad things or bad complaints, and he would have a lot of bad sentiments, okay, and so many other words and things, okay. So let's say we are able to extract the Twitter. Now, as you know, in Twitter, Instagram, we've got a Twitter handle, right, which uniquely identifies us, right? And we have on email, but normally date of birth is not there in Twitter. Don't know if maybe Facebook has it, maybe Instagram has it, but whatever. Not all the details of our person is there, and a lot of people lie, right? A lot of people will not give the right data in there. It's not checked. You just have to give a date of birth. You give any date of birth you want. Okay, so even email addresses may not be the ones that we normally use because we want to kind of we want to not expose it everywhere. Okay, so anyway, so that's what happens in Twitter posts. But let's say we were able to download it, right? Then once we get the Twitter feed, let's say Trump's feed, we got to parse it, right? We got to say, okay, who's this guy? Okay, we might get a Twitter handle, but who do we have a name? How do we identify this person? Okay. And I'm talking about if there's a bank customer and there's a Twitter feed. How do we really identify if we don't have a date of birth? We're definitely not going to have a tax file number in Twitter. But how do we identify? Could be in with the image photo. If you can download the photo, maybe we can match that with what we have in the bank records. Okay, so what I'm saying is we're going to do fuzzy matching, right? We don't have exact matches as we do in structured data, right? We're going to do fuzzy matching. So so in this fuzzy matches, right? So when we post something on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, okay, so there are dialect differences when you type in. Some people say crayfish, some people say crawfish, some people say yabbies. Yabbies in Australia, right?
Lobsters.
Yeah, lobsters. Lobsters? It's
Lobsters.
not in there.
Yeah, lobsters.
Okay. It's not in there. Yabbies is.
Yeah, these are smaller.
Yeah, smaller.
Yeah, these are
Okay.
generally smaller than a crayfish, which is bigger.
Crayfish is kind of US. So if your customer is using US slang, you probably use crayfish or crawfish. Crawfish in Louisiana, I think. All right, so national spelling differences, yogurt, and there could be yogurt. And differences, national word differences, pants and trousers. Trousers are more English, and pants are mostly used in the US. So mean the same thing, but different words. Multiple valid spelling with changes, PADY and PDY, misspellings. Like definitely a lot of people, they're typing away and they can misspell,
Big thumb.
mistyping. So what I'm saying is we might get customer streaming data, but we have to deal with all these problems. Okay. So we got to do fuzzy matching. We got to edit it. And this is happening in the silver layer. We are editing it and we are getting into a version which we can work with later on. Okay. Okay. So in this silver layer is where I think we have to start our data modeling. Okay. Okay. So
Got it.
yeah. All right. So here's where we need to start with our data model. Why? Because we've got a customer feed here on the left. Everybody see this? Everybody see this all right? See this all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the customer feed. As you can see, we've got the Twitter handle. We've got the blog, which can be a complaint or a compliment. We got the email, mobile number, date of birth, maybe. In some other streaming, maybe we'll get it, maybe you won't. But on the right, on this green side, oh, sorry. Okay, on the green here is our bank structured data. Okay, so we got the customer master where we got the customer ID. Like I said, I found the customer. I got an ID like 303 or whatever, full name, date of birth, email, mobile number, tax file number, everything else, right? Now, here is where we can do the same as link, and this is a data vault paradigm, where we're saying that, hey, we were able to match this customer ID with this customer Twitter handle with this level of confidence, maybe 80% confidence, 90% confidence, whatever. And maybe we matched the email address, we matched, like I said, maybe even the photo. If there was one, we were able to match it. So this is what I'm saying is going to happen, and we got to do this as a model in the silver layer. Okay. All right. How are we doing for time?
About halfway.
Okay, okay.
Maybe a little bit short.
Right, just give me a sec, guys.
It was an online question, so
Yep.
if you need more information, let me know.
All right,
Or come off mute and ask.
all right. What was the question again?
The question was, who would be the consumers of the data in the silver layer?
All right. Normally, I would say the data scientists and the data analytics team, because they would know and would have an insight into how we did this, how we related the two, okay, and what does confidence level mean? What does that imply? Okay, and so when they are doing any of their reporting or dashboarding or anything, they can
see that.
they can
Yep.
they can include and they can use that information when they're doing that. Okay, so it seems to me it would have to be those kind of people, not the end users. Okay, so the end users, right? In my view, there are two kinds. One is the vanilla user. Vanilla user, they just want to log on to the bank terminal and they say, okay, what was my sales for last week or last quarter? I just want to get that report out. Okay. The other one are the power users who want to do deep dive and look at, okay, which are the regions where I'm getting my most customers? What kind of customers am I getting? Those insights and all that, right? And usually they're more tech savvy. They can write SQL, they can do all that, and they can go. So the vanilla users, they probably will not see this. They may not be able to understand it or understand what's going on here, but the power users would. Okay.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Okay.
Makes a
Yeah.
lot of
Okay.
sense.
All right. Okay. All right. Now fuzzy matching. This is some code. It's just basic code. How you can match within tables. This code is just matching two rows for duplicate to see if they are matching. Okay. And then there's a get similarity score. Can you see this? So there's a function that's written. Sorry. There's a function get similarity score. And that, given the two fields, it tells you what's the similarity score, 85%, 90%, whatever. It tells you that. Okay. And there are a heck of a lot of fuzzy matching algorithms out there. There's oodles of them, right? There's one called Levenstein distance, and I don't want to get there's a whole lot of them. So anyway, fuzzy matching is going to be big time in what we do here to get that silver layer. Okay, all right. All right, but I just want to touch on this, right? Because we are bound by data privacy regulations, right? On our personal data. So if we are going to get customer Twitter feeds, Instagram feeds, or Facebook feeds, or whatever, just want to let you guys know that we are in Australia. There's a Privacy Act 1988 with Amendment 217, and there's the Australian Privacy Principle, where, well, the customer has to sign up that okay, the bank can use my personal data. Okay, it's more strict in GDPR in Europe. It's more strict in Europe, but I think in Australia, at least we have this APP, Australian Privacy Principle. Just wanted to let you guys know that. Okay. So I think what we've covered here, just to summarize, okay. So we've got here on the left our sources of data, which can be batch, can be either coming from batch or streaming. And the raw data comes into the bronze layer. And from the bronze layer, we filter and clean and augment it into the silver layer. From the silver layer, now we can go to the business level aggregates in the gold. Okay, which gives us our BI and machine learning on the right side. Okay. All right. Now, what happens in gold? Okay. How do we, okay, we've got the silver layer. Now, what do we do in the gold? Now, remember, in the gold, we are trying to get the information like right here for both our vanilla users and our power users, right? We want to give both of them the tools to operate. Okay. So in order to do this, one of the main ways is to do a dimensional model, and this is Kimball's star schema, right? Yeah, a few nods. Yeah. Okay, so this is Kimball's star schema. As you can see, there's a fact table in the middle, and it relates to dimension tables in a star pattern, right? So here, for example, we could have like a fact account contact. Okay. Okay. So here, we want to know for an account, customer account, how many contacts did we have last quarter? Okay. And what kind of contacts were there? Were they email contacts? Were they face-to-face meetings? Were there text contacts or phone contacts or whatever? So that's the contact channel on the right side. And the location is, where the customer was, which state the customer was, Western Australia, New South Wales, wherever, or came to a branch or wherever. So that's the location. Okay. Here's the customer, where we have the customer attributes like the name, date joined, tax file number, and we can also in the dim customer, we can put in data of relevant to us for the customer, like what's the net worth for each of our customer. We might have that in our records, so we can put that in the dim customer. Yeah, age or date of birth, whatever. Okay. All right. And calendar. In this calendar is given this date from and to. So suppose I say date from, say, 1st of July 2023 to 30th of September 2023, day 2. It can tell me with the dim calendar which quarter it is of the financial year, quarter 1, and which day of the week it is, and etc. So that's that dim calendar. That's what it's used for. Okay. So in the fact table, so we got a customer, you got the date from, date to. We got the channel that was used for the customer. The number of contacts made from that date from into number of contacts, number of complaints, number of compliments, number of suggestions. So for every fact table, there is a grain, and that's the grain. The key for the fact table becomes the grain. So the grain here is the customer ID, date from, date to, contact channel. The grain points to the star schema, right? It goes to the dimensions in the star schema. So there are 4 in the grain. And then there are the measures, right? The measures tell us what are the actual values? What are the actual values that we got? How many contacts did we have for that customer during that quarter? 10, 7, 6. So that number will be there. How many were complaints? How many compliments? How many suggestions? Yeah.
I think this is why we use this in Power BI, right? Normally, when we do Power BI, we use this scheme.
Yeah. Yep, we do. Amongst other things. That's not the only thing we use.
It's what we
Power
should.
BI. It's not the only way to use Power BI, but this is one, yeah. Sir, what's your name?
Varun.
Varun, okay. Yeah, that's right. So this is one of the principal ways. So then this goes into gold, and using this in Power BI, we can set up our analytics, our dashboards, our reports, visualizations. Um, you know, we can do all that in Power BI. Okay, and that's what the had that. Yeah, that's that on the right side, Power BI. Okay. Um, okay. How am I doing? Anything, Kelly? Anything from the?
No question.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You've got at least 15 minutes.
All right. Okay. So I just want to. That's okay. So this is my summary. Okay. So what I'm saying is, we do require a data model, even though we've got this data lake, and go into a lake house. We got all this data coming in from all these sources, but we do require a data model in the silver layer and in the gold layer. Okay. That's my view. I mean, I don't know if people want to differ. That's different, but I think we need a data model. Other than without that, if I'm a data scientist, there's no way I can get meaningful data from my lakehouse. Okay. I don't think it's possible to do it. Okay, I mean a lot of this is my view. You don't have to take it, but what I think is a lot of the vendors, like name it, like Databricks or Spark or whoever. I'm just naming few. They've been saying, okay, we got all this data, let's use it. It's all out there. What are you waiting for? It's out there. So why are you waiting? Why are you so slow? But it's not that easy. If you think about it, yeah, the data is there, but in order for you to actually use it, you have to go through what I think is modeling into the silver and the gold. And then you can use it. Once it's there, then you can use it. Yeah. Already covered that. And now we got AI. Well, even if I don't know how smart AI is right now in doing this stuff, but even if they are, even if maybe 5 years down the track or 10 years down the track, they become real smart, but they still have to do what we are doing right now, it seems to me. Okay. Okay. So data science, Einstein there. So
Sort of feels like sometimes looking for data, isn't it?
yeah, he's looking for data as a science. So I hope what I said made sense. I don't know if you guys can relate it to what you're doing. And well, how many people are working with data science in their workplace? Varun, you only. Okay, right. What's your name, please?
Charunath.
Char.
Charu.
Charu. Charu. Okay. So 2 out of. Okay. All right. Okay.
This applies to more than just data science, though. Like this is so many different analytics teams and all that sorts of stuff that you might not use the moniker data science, but I think this does make a lot of sense for a lot of organizations. I really liked the way that I've heard of the bronze, silver, gold, the medallion system, and I've obviously heard of all the Kimball and Imon and Vaults and all that sorts of stuff. I've never heard it described together, and it works really, really well. I think that was the really good insight from today, was that you can translate from one language to the other, and it actually like moves across the two different.
I don't know if you mentioned data mesh today.
Data mesh, yeah.
I know you said data vault. There's also a new one called data mesh.
Data
I don't know if
mesh.
it's like a truly a modeling technique. It's more how we organize data within an organization.
Yeah.
Semi-decentralized sort of a way.
Yeah, like I said, Microsoft, all these guys, they're coming up with, like, I think that's the data mesh is from Microsoft, right?
There is a data mesh like tool. No,
yeah,
it's not from Microsoft. This is the general.
Yeah.
General tooling and stuff.
Kind of industry, yeah, you're right. But what I'm saying, it's what I feel, I haven't worked with it, but I think it is similar or kind of, it's not too far removed from what we are talking about here.
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, I think the key change there is where do you keep the data? Like most of Kinmon and Imbol talk about a centralized kind of EDP, enterprise data platform, DWs for the system, whereas this is bit more decentralized. Where the customer, like for example, the finance data remains with the finance team. It doesn't go into a central DW yet. Again, it's very similar to an HR data with another team.
Isolated.
Essentially, the domain owns the data. That's like the key.
Privacy or
No, it's not privacy. It's more related to who understands the data better.
data mart is.
Yeah, within. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
It talks more about the where you get the data from, less about the where you get the data to. And I think your message around where you get the data to is sort of, what is still industry accepted for data science and some of those business functions. So it's still a perfectly valid discussion. And
It's got to be collaborative, right? It's got to be, people can't say, look, stand off, hands off, this is my domain. This is my finance domain, hands off, don't get in there and don't, I'm not gonna.
don't reinvent the wheel and all that.
I don't think that, that's gonna work.
No. Are there any other questions? Online or in person? I do have one just quickly. I get a lot of customers and clients that come to me and say they want to do all this, but they also want a dev test environment.
Yep.
How does that fit with the gold, silver, bronze sort of lakehouse? It's like, do you create another lakehouse that's dev test, or do you integrate it within? What's your opinion in that space?
Yeah, good question. All right, so well, the dev test you need because you could make mistakes in the modeling, you could make mistakes in the BI and whatever, in the fuzzy matching. So you need that, okay? And that has to be a separate environment. It's only later on when you want to deploy to production, that's separate altogether, right? When you're ready to deploy to production. But you need a separate dev test.
Do you use prod data?
Generally you have a copy.
You can't test your fuzzy logic. You can't test your fuzzy logic particularly well if you're using data that has been generated for you. Like you're not going to get the same anomalies in the fuzzy logic. So
yeah, great point. Yeah, sure, for sure. You'd have a copy, but you may not need in depth test, you may not need, if you got 2 million customers, you don't need to have a 2 million customer case. So you can do it with 1,000, okay, in depth test. So you can work with 1,000, okay?
Got to remember what you're testing. Are you testing the load, or are you testing the data accuracy, or are you testing the ETL?
This fast moving IT because new systems are coming every now and then. What would be an approximate time or roughly a time for building a lake house or data warehouse system?
What's a good time?
How long would it take? But just to have that business to use it, because it does take time to ingest, make everything process. What would be the rough estimate for building a lake house or like data lake, data warehouse, those kind of systems?
I don't think we can say there's a hard and fast, like it's gonna take 2 months or 5 months or whatever. I don't think you can say that. It all depends on what are your sources of data that you're capturing, right? And how much is your structured data, and how much is your unstructured data that you want to bring in. And I would say the backbone, in my view, the backbone is the structured data. Okay, so in this bank example, the bank customer record, the account record, the locations of the bank, all that kind of payments made, payment history, debt collection, all this is structured. When did this happen? The dates to it, the structured data, right? So that, in my view, that should be the backbone for your lakehouse, okay? And then you can bring in the unstructured stuff, like I said, like the customer is complaining about the bank or saying or whatever, or complimenting the bank or whatever. So bring that in, as we go. So but then how many you should bring in, that's something that you got to work out, right? Maybe you start bringing the first, see how you go with the first one or two, and then you see how the lake house comes along. As you do the fuzzy matching, you do the medallion architecture. You do the fuzzy matching. And fuzzy matching is a zone, is a totally, it's there's so many ways to do it, right? And so there's no single way to do it. So you got to work that out, in whichever place you're in. So are you starting to use Lakehouse? Yeah.
No, yeah, not just for my.
Oh,
It took about 2 years to build a 250 terabyte lakehouse. And that was one of the first implementations of lakehouse in Australia.
And that's.
But yeah, so that it completely depends on the type of lake that you do. But it doesn't have to be like a waterfall, wait for 2 years to get a report also.
Yeah.
It could be very iterative.
Agile.
Business as well. Business. We've been trying to develop a business data strategy from last 1.5 years, and we're still on the starting phase.
Just go build. You'll get it right as you go. Yeah, quite.
That's
It's a bit tricky because it's taking 2 years. The team starts with that, and by the time you finish, it's entirely new team managing it.
Yeah.
That's
what happened.
New business requirements, all that sorts of stuff. Yeah, sort of agile. There's another question up the back.
Actually, I want.
They ask more from a SQL DW relation.
Suppose I'm working on a product that, let's say, payments is an example. So I'm working with the payments, sort of like a compliance module. And we have like a lot of payment architecture, like a lot of enterprise softwares that has different data structures and their data modeling is different. And I have like one particular thing that wants to talk to these enterprise systems. What sort of architecture we will use? Because let's say the way we maintain tables or the column names or like, modeling is entirely different between each enterprises. But I have like one single thing that should be like flexible enough to understand data coming in from all these things. Is there any sort of like architecture I can use, or?
I have a bench to throw, but I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, and so can I ask you, this is all structured data, right?
Yeah, it's also.
Same structured data. So what's wrong with tables? Can't you put them in tables?
But if I like make my product in like I hard code, so this is the way the data should come in, like in this column and this data type, and these are the tables. But some other enterprise system, let's say Oracle use a different way.
Oh, different data types.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also changes in the source.
Sorry?
Also changes in the source.
Yeah, change.
For the upstream, change the product entirely.
Yeah, that's why we got jobs. Because, they keep changing, that's why we got jobs, yeah.
That's what keeps us employed.
Yeah.
Because the branch
It's a bit.
data visualization layer in between.
Pardon me?
I worked in patterns where they have a data virtualization.
Yep.
Using Denodo, etc., where they abstract that layer out. So they use Denodo, which is another, or it could be other. There are many products.
Yeah.
But the point is, you create a virtual layer, and you create views effectively on this virtual layer that kind of talk to the tables that are in the back. I don't know if that worked for people, but
That was a very cool, that was a very Oracle way of thinking about 10 years ago. That came from a lot of Oracle DBAs in my experience, and there's nothing wrong with it. It was to try and stop duplicate sets of data. So we kind of, Kimball kind of went down the path of, you've got your source data, you bring it into an operational data store. So you've basically got a copy of everything. Then you move it into a staging layer, and then you move it into a transform layer, and then you bring it into star schemas. And what was happening was people were getting a lot of storage blowout because you've now got 5 versions of the same data. So especially with bigger databases, there was a lot of push, especially 10 years ago when storage was a lot harder, it was a lot more expensive than what it is now, was to virtualize a lot of those layers. So that's where that sort of came from. Whether that's appropriate or not, still, that's where Lakehouse now, we still look at the medallion system. Are you, the data that you got in bronze, are you copying that data into silver, or are you virtualizing that data in silver? Are you tripling your data spend, or are you doing it more efficiently as you go along?
The ones that I've seen essentially are duplicating it.
Yeah, I've seen systems that were 5 times in data, which is just crazy.
But I think the concept of the staging layer, so to speak, has been there since forever, regardless of the model. You always had the schema.
You always had some ODS or a staging, or there's always an L in the ELT, whether it's ELT or ETL, there's always an L.
Yep.
ETL has changed to ELT, but the L.
The L's still there.
You still have to extract data, you still have to load data.
You still have to put it somewhere.
I mean, the way people got around it for a while at least, or pretended to, was using work data virtualization.
And look, data virtualization was good on your storage cost. It wasn't good on performance.
Yeah, it is still, that's the big challenge. But if you're doing some operational reporting, you might get away with it. The problem comes when you do long-term reporting, anything that needs months, years worth.
Yeah.
I've seen silver layer, as to just referring to the previous question that we had, silver layer being used for operational reporting.
I believe that.
Like I need to know what's happened in the last, I don't know, 30 minutes.
But those people will be tech savvy, right?
Yeah.
They know how to,
Yeah.
they're not, sure.
Business users, but tech savvy.
Power users. Microsoft
You
likes
can
the word
use
power, doesn't it?
On the silver
I
layer.
like power now a lot.
Power.
You can use Power BI on silver layer.
Yeah,
Because-
that's what they're using, in fact, in Grafana.
I think the moral is there's lots of different ways to do it. It depends on your organization. Lots of things to keep in mind, and that's what this session covered, was a lot of those different considerations.
Yep. Like I said, keeps us in jobs.
Some of us really like it. That's what we do. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, one last one maybe before, sorry, I'm keeping you.
No, you're fine. I'm just going to type.
In Power BI, one of the things that I've seen you would think that everybody would use very clean star schemas, but nobody does. At least the ones that I've come across don't do.
Some do. Arun does.
But nobody likes curation anymore. I don't know if you've noticed.
No, it's too much work.
Yeah. So now, back in the day, they were like proper star schema. They had facts and dimensions, proper keys, But more and more, what I'm saying is the source data structures being copied over, and essentially they use Power BI to build relationships, and that essentially carries around. I don't know. That's essentially third normal form or second normal form being carried into.
Can you tell Microsoft to stop making Power BI really powerful and able to process those things for us?
Yeah, I think they're going the other way around.
So
With Fabric, they went.
Fabric's going to stage that, like it's going to have that middle layer where all that stuff happens in Fabric, and then you use Power BI on top of that. But you're right, it has
It's
been.
completely optional though. You
Yeah.
don't have to use it.
And for so long it's been, don't use cubes anymore, use Power BI. So yes, we have been sort of pushed down that track, for better or for worse. The one thing I'll find I notice quite a lot is Power BI models that model that model a source system are fine when they've got, a couple of thousand rows. Once they get up to millions, they fall over. They either exceed the size of what you can publish onto Power BI, or they take, 4 hours to actually refresh. And then I know a lot of my customers come to me going, fix my Power BI report. And the solution is make it a star schema, because that will, reduce the size dramatically. It will increase the performance.
Sorry. What happens when there's a direct link thing there with Fabric? You could load the data into data lake.
Yeah, the idea is you load the data into data lake, and then
that-
Power BI consumes the gold layer.
Yeah, ideally, Power BI should consume the gold layer, but more and more I'm seeing people going to the silverish layer. I'm not saying, and using Databricks SQL in this case, for example, to query the silver layer directly. It's the gold layer becomes essentially a virtual thing.
And look, there's nothing wrong with that. I make this analogy quite often for my clients. For those of us who've been around in business intelligence and data warehousing for quite a while, especially in the Microsoft world, we had SSIS, the integration services, which was your ETL tool. Then you had analysis services, which was your cubes. And then you had reporting services, and that was your reporting. And that was all really great. And that made sense in everyone's minds. There was an E and an LT and an L, and, it kind of worked. And then we moved up to Power BI, and cubes and SSAS became you can do them in Azure, but they're really expensive and they're really hard. Because we changed from multidimensional to tabular as well. So there was a whole paradigm shift in that world. So Power BI replaced the reporting side of things, but it also replaced the cube part of the process. The ETL's always been either SSAS or Data Factory or pipelines or workbooks or something along those lines. But the step 2 and 3 merged into Power BI. And what you're saying is, oh my God, everyone's doing step 2 and 3 in Power BI. Oh no. That's really where we were pushed by Microsoft. Now, Fabric has decided to separate it again, and really put the data lake, and a lot of what you can build in Fabric is more the models, and that's sort of intermediate data step. And then you use Power BI to consume that, and Power BI can compress it and work really well with it, and it performs nicely. But trying to push us more into the create data models in Fabric, create those data flows and stuff in Fabric, so that you're going back to that more traditional 3-step process, because it does perform better in the long run.
In fact, I had a customer's principal architect complaining to me today about how 80% of the data science work is ETL.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only 80?
Yeah.
Only?
Yeah.
That's the way it's going. So, which makes it a lot easier. One of the biggest flaws I saw with Power BI is the model and the report were one-to-one. So you build a model and then you build a report. And if someone wanted to make a slightly different report, they'd either copy the whole thing and make some changes here, but not make the changes down here. So now you've got 2 silos. Or there were some ways that you could connect multiple reports to the same model, but it was really fiddly and it was really hard to teach people how to do it. So you'd end up with a copy of the Power BI model here, and a copy of the Power BI model and report here, and a copy here, and it'll be slightly different. If you had to change something, you had to change all of them. Fabric resolves that problem if you set it up well.
Also, there's a new preview feature in Power BI where you can actually edit the model online.
Right. Yes.
And the edited one could be a new report by itself.
Correct.
So you can
And
have
that's
reports hanging off the one data model.
Yeah. And that's where the Fabric stuff's come in and said, this is a data model, this is a report. They're not the same thing anymore.
Also, they're calling it a semantic model now. They're calling it.
Gone back to semantic model. Words, semantics.
Great discussion.
Anything else, guys? This is kind of a bulk.
Yeah.
We got one more.
So everything that's been covered today, is there any value for like a small to medium company? Because like I'm a career changer, I'm coming from like engineering and manufacturing. definitely the customers like I've experienced, they'll be pushing out like $100,000 projects like every month. But I definitely know that they don't use this kind of things in their, I guess, in their companies. Is there value like that they can take from this? Like, is it worth like them investing in like having a like a data warehouse, a data lake, or is it too big of a scale for them to incorporate?
Well,
Can I answer that with a live example?
Yeah.
Running right now in Tasmania. They run a data warehouse entirely of serverless SQL for $4,000 a month. And that runs their, I think, the entire water utilities of Tasmania. So it's possible.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a smaller company with smaller data set,
Yeah.
it's possible. I think it's harder if you're a smaller company with a large data set.
yeah, is that a private company? That's private?
Public, it's
Yeah.
public.
Oh, government,
Government.
water.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah,
I've got a
yeah.
similar one in South Australia.
$4,000 is what they spent. 3,500.
Yeah.
They're not even using dedicated SQL pool, entirely on serverless, and they pay per query, so they don't pay X amount of money for capacity. Every query that they run is like 10 cents or something.
So I guess the challenge is like that's government, so that's public. These are private.
Yeah.
These are family-owned businesses who probably don't see the value in it, so they're not going to put the money in. So is it worth it to have something set up in there?
Well, it depends on how small. It's when you say it's small, I mean, it's real small and people use Excel, right? If
Yeah,
you're a mom and pop, I mean, business, then you could be using Excel, right? Which is where
Hmm.
most mom and pop business start off with, right?
Yeah.
But if you go like 50, 100 employees and you start going into state or, not just in one state, but in the state, and keep expanding, that's where you need dimensional marts or data warehouses. Because you have more and more, because if you are, I mean, I don't know what the limit is, but if you start with only, say, 10,000 customers, kind of small, but if you reach 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, you can't do it with Excel, right?
It depends as well what you're trying to achieve. So if you want to go down the machine learning or some of the AI paths and things like that, if you want to really leverage, some different scenarios for what happens to my customer base if I do this and all that, you're not going to achieve that in Excel.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go with the whole modeling, go this way, basically, because you can get away with it for, a very small amount per month in ongoing costs and things like that. But think about what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to achieve flashy Excel reports, no. But if you're trying to step up into a predictive modeling type, like a predictive, kind of model, or you want to look at your churn rates, or you want to look at how you can grow the business and you want to see where you come from, then yeah, there's definitely value. But if you just want to analyze how many of your customers come from the postcode 3192, use Excel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
so Power BI started off in Excel.
And Power BI will work on Excel. You don't need all this stuff to use Power BI.
Yeah.
But if if Excel starts, crashing and Power BI won't refresh off it anymore, either buy a new laptop or start thinking a lot this fast.
Yeah.
Sorry, I bought a new laptop last weekend.
Yeah.
I kept crashing my laptop when I was trying to run like 6 Power BI models at once. Alrighty. Happy to hang around and answer any other questions if people have them. We normally leave the screen on for a little bit as well. But
The smells online.
you've got Martin and my contact details through Meetup as well, so you can always direct message us through Meetup, or I think our LinkedIn's are associated with it. If you're ever trying to find me, I'm really easy. My surname is quite unique, so just search for me on any platform with my surname and you will find me. It's scary. Yes, so it is the way it is. So fuzzy matching for me is really easy because there's no other Kelly Brookstra in the world. Seriously, there isn't. So I'm easy to fuzzy match. And my Twitter handle is kelly.brookstra. So I'm easy.
Alrighty. So Kelly, what's the next time is?
Right. I'm not sure yet about December's meeting. So any suggestions from the floor, I'm happy to take. So prior to COVID, we were two separate groups. We were the data platform user group, which met here on a Tuesday on a monthly basis. And we did sessions similar to this. We also had a second group, which Martin was looking after, which was a social group. And we used to meet down at the Royal Melbourne Hotel once a month. We'd get pizza, we'd have beers. We might have a presenter do a very short session just to sort of start some conversations, but then we'd have that opportunity to talk. And I know a few of you have come to me at different points and said, hey, I've just moved into this industry from a different industry, or I'm looking at changing jobs or things like that. Who can I talk to? And we never get the chance to really have the conversations because in the sort of 20 minutes whilst we're waiting for pizza or we all leave straight after. So maybe that social setting might actually give us the chance. But a lot's changed over the last couple of years. Is that what people want anymore? Or do we want an activity that we can all sort of engage in and chat with whilst we go? Or do we want to learn something completely different? Happy for suggestions, but it is the December one. So I am kind of looking for something a little bit out of the ordinary, not necessarily same. I might even put together, I'll put together a survey tomorrow and I'll ping it out and I'll say, thoughts. Totally okay with December is a crazy month. I'm always silly busy and I'm not doing anything. Because yes, no, that does happen. I get that. But yeah, just trying to change it up a little bit. I said when we brought this group back after COVID, I don't want it to just be the same, not necessarily the same topic, but, same sort of structure every month. I wanted to change it up a bit. So suggestions would be helpful.
Doesn't have to be here. Doesn't have to be here. Okay.
We do have a budget though.